Good morning. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Olha Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to welcome you at Ukrainian Media Center today. Today we're starting our day with an important topic. We are about to have a presentation of a study about the current needs and challenges facing veterans of the Russian-Ukrainian war. And we will talk about it in more detail. We'll talk about the results, and we'll discuss the results of the study. The study was held in October and November this year, so the data is pretty fresh. Joining us in the studio are Nina Rogovets, Acting Executive Director of the Ukrainian Veterans Foundation, and Anastasiia Selianinova, Head of the Educational and Analytical Department of the Ukrainian Veterans Foundation. Good morning, ladies. Thank you for joining us. So, Ms. Nina, the floor is yours. Let's talk about the key results of the study. To what extent are we seeing the changes? Are there any changes at all? Good morning. Today, the Ukrainian Veterans Foundation is presenting the 6th survey of the veterans of the Russian-Ukrainian war. It says about their needs, their problems. Is the 6th study that we've done either on our own or with involvement of our partners, and this study demonstrates the actual needs of our veterans. The nuances that we are supposed to take into account as we formulate the government policies, as we formulate the needs covered by our foreign donors, and the figures that Anastasiia will disclose in detail, but the general figures that we're seeing, the trend is growing. For example, that 69% of the surveyed veterans, both male and female, they want to establish their own businesses, either to establish it or scale it up. Also, there is a concerning trend that 59% of the veterans sense some lack of respect to them. I think we have to pay attention to indicators like this, and 51% of the veterans are concerned about having problems with employment as they get back to civilian life. They are concerned about having workplaces adapted for them, and we continue conducting such surveys all the time. Is the sixth survey, as I've mentioned, and Anastasiia may give you more detail about the results of the survey. Yeah, Anastasiia, so let's give the floor to you. Let's discuss the figures, the results, methodology, and then discuss basically the overall survey. So, talking about methodology, it was an online survey. It was an online form that the veterans, both male and female, could fill. It was filled by 1,225 persons. There were veterans who were already retired and those who are still on active duty. And again, this study is not representative. We had no requirements to the drawdown. We just wanted to track current trends, current phenomena inherent in this group, but we cannot extrapolate it to the whole community of the veterans. Well, Ina, may I ask you to click the slides, because I got my hands busy. So talking about methodology, and now let's proceed to the following slide. So what are the demographic characteristics of our drawdown? First, generally 88% are men and 12% are women in our drawdown. Talking about the age, 29% is 35 years, 36% 36, 45 years, 28% 46, 60 years, and almost 3% 60 years plus, both male and female. Also, in this survey, we've done it for the first time, we decided to evaluate the social economic status of the veterans, and it gives us concerning figures. We've used a standard question to evaluate the status. Which of the following statements mostly corresponds to your financial status? And for example, the option, we don't get enough money even to buy food, it's 6.5%. Or for example, we can afford buying anything we want, was picked by 15.8% of the veterans, both male and female. So they have no limitations in buying anything they need. 16% of those surveyed, but still it's a small figure. And now let's proceed to the following slide. It says about the support, the most demanded support. We've asked what kind of support do you need the most now, and it's clear that the majority, 59.8%, have selected material support. They deem this kind of support as insufficient. Then goes medical, legal, psychological support. So the top three needs are still the same. But comparing to the same type of survey dated year 23, the need for material support has grown. And now let's proceed. Our favorite question about the entrepreneurship. As my colleague has said, almost 70%, 68.8%, would like to be involved in entrepreneurship, and only 9% are already involved. Now let's proceed to the actual benefits. We were asking the veterans, both male and female, what kind of benefits they or their families are using, and they were able to pick a number of options. That's why we have such different percentage here. So 9.7 picked the training and education benefits, the utility service benefits almost 70%, material aid 4.4, psychological rehabilitation 4.1, medical services, medical benefits 12.1, and free transportation is one of the leaders. Almost half of the veterans are using this benefit. So what are these figures telling us? As we get back to the first slide, we remember that the priority need, 12% mentioned it, is medical support, and here we're seeing that the medical support is in demand, 12%, but again, psychological rehabilitation is twice smaller than it was indicated in the first slide. And when it comes to financial support, like it's only 6%, but we remember that on the first slide, the material support was requested by, or was selected by, almost half or more than half of the veterans. Now let's look at the following slides. Maybe the things get more clear for us. The satisfaction with the services. We were asking which are the services that you are satisfied the most and the least. For example, only 9% are satisfied with the education benefits, 42.6% are enjoying the utility service benefits. Again, financial support 7.4%, very low level of satisfaction. And free transportation, almost half of the veterans are satisfied with it. And as we look at another part, what are the veterans most dissatisfied with? Here you see the financial support is among the leaders among the dissatisfying factors, in the same way that the medical services are. And now let's proceed to the following slide. We were evaluating the probability of negative phenomena in the lives of the veterans. We were suggesting different phenomena, different circumstances, and we were asking how probable, in your opinion, those phenomena are going to emerge as you come back from the front lines. So what are we seeing here? I'll cover just the key figures. There's a lot of them. You can get familiarized with them in our website. So abuse of alcohol and narcotics, 43% think that it's very probable, 31% think that it's mostly probable. Absence of employment, more than a half think that it's a very probable situation. And 29% say that it's very likely. Then psycho-emotional instability, more than a half deem this factor as very probable as they come back to civil lives. Absence of inclusive spaces, problems with physical health, absence of job. All those phenomena are being evaluated as probable or very probable by half or more than a half of those surveyed. Or irrelevant experience as an employee, 24% think that it's probable and mostly probable, 37%. But what's interesting, 21% said it's difficult to answer, which means that the veterans, both male and female, most likely don't understand whether their experience is going to be relevant. So there is no understanding for almost 1/5 of those surveyed. What else is interesting here? For example, the violation of law and participation in crime, 14% evaluated as very probable and mostly probable, just a little bit more than 1%. Oh, sorry, 21%. And the level of satisfaction with their needs, they were evaluating by 5-point scale. 1 is completely unsatisfied, 5 is fully satisfied, 0 meant no such need at all. So here we're providing data for those who have the needs we were asking about. So even by overall picture, you may see that 1, the gray part of the chart is the biggest part. So almost third of the veterans responded that this need is uncovered for them. I mean, for all of the needs, what we can focus on, though, is the development of their own businesses. 35% of those who had this need, they've mentioned that is completely uncovered. 24% said that it's almost uncovered, and only 7% said that they have this need covered. Also talking about the free transportation or subsidized transportation, it's such a benefit that is evaluated quite high in terms of satisfaction, quite an interesting factor, by the way. And in the following slide, we may see that the average of all those evaluations is almost similar. 1 is completely uncovered need, and 5 is the full level of satisfaction. So everything is around 2.5 points. However, the financial support of the family has the lowest level of satisfaction. However, the beneficial transportation has the highest number of points. Now let's proceed to the following slide, which is connected with the previous ones. The evaluation by the veterans of fulfillment of the state's obligations before them. We've seen that the veterans evaluate the benefits pretty low, and their level of satisfaction with the service is pretty low. And here we see the same, that the government doesn't comply with its obligations. That's the option that was picked by 53%, and more than 20% mentioned that they hardly fulfill all of the government hardly fulfills all of the obligations before them, and only 1.1% stated that they are fully satisfied with the level of fulfillment of the state's obligations before the veterans. Now let's proceed to the following slide. We were evaluating the programs on establishing the inclusive spaces. The first chart and the second chart is rehabilitation and prosthetics. Well, the first option, the lowest ones, absolutely inefficient or mostly inefficient. 24% only said that the prosthetic programs are mostly effective, and 20 and 26% respectively said that it's difficult for them to answer, which means that they are not aware about the efficiency or even existence of such programs. And what goes next? We were asking the veterans about the society, something that Nina has mentioned, respect to the veterans, both male and female, and awareness about their needs and problems. So this is the diagram that demonstrates their perception of respect. 42.9% says that the society mostly disrespects veterans, and 15.5% say that society doesn't respect veterans at all. And comparing to our previous surveys, the subjective assessment of the veterans becomes more negative, and the general national surveys that we coordinate with our partners, they demonstrate the same tendencies. And our last question was about the respect of the veterans and awareness, and the awareness of the society about the needs and problems of the veterans is evaluated as mostly negative. The most of the veterans, 45.2%, think that the society is not aware, is mostly not aware, and 34% said that society is completely unaware. And here we can see the sentiment of the veterans that we've surveyed, that the society is not aware, they don't realize certain challenges, and it influences the following questions, the lack of respect, for example. And I would like to, and here you will be able to find the exact figures and more detailed analytics in our website in the section of analytics. Thank you very much, Nastya. Let's discuss a couple of slides. I think they are really important. I mean, the penultimate slide about respect and disrespect is absolutely impressive. Let's get back to it. To me, it's really an unexpected result. There is a feeling that it's quite on contrary, that with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the society started treating the veterans, warriors, our defenders with more respect. But based on your survey, we may state that it's the other way around. Have you tried to find out what is respect for the veterans? When they say they don't sense any respect, what do they mean by that, by this term which is hardly measurable? Because as we talk about support, it's difficult to understand what do they need, or what do they mean. Have you tried to identify what sense are they putting in this term? Well, your question is mostly about the quality survey rather than quantity, and now we're working on a survey that is related to the biases, respect and disrespect towards the veterans. We were interviewing our respondents, and what I can say is that there was a significant growth of this respect to the veterans with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, and now this attitude shifts to more neutral or even to disrespect. That's mostly, I mean, this impression is being reinforced by some specific personalities who are probably badly educated, and they demonstrate disrespect not only to the veterans but to everybody. Obviously, that's the understanding of society's attitude to veterans, and the impression of the veterans is getting deteriorated because of this. But if we check the national surveys, when we were asking Ukrainians generally, the majority were saying that the respect is there, but still they are also observing some decline. We cannot like state it 100% because this phenomena of increased respect, I mean, it was really increased with the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Now this attitude is being normalized, and the way this trend is going to develop is going to tell us a lot about the way the veterans are going to feel themselves as a part of the society. So I think it's important to study whether it was a personal experience or of some specific individual, or is it some fame or infamous story that was in the media, like some people who somehow express disrespect to our veterans, and definitely we wouldn't like such phenomena to influence the overall picture. We were talking also about the help and support. Did you have an option? Did you have any answers from the veterans that they don't need any kind of support at all? Well, we had this option, the level of satisfaction with the services. They could pick this option that they had no such need. All those points that you're seeing here, they were evaluated by, I mean, those were the questions evaluated by the people who had those needs. There was such an option. It was picked by a different number of people. In the printed version or on the website, you will be able to see the number of people who were saying those needs did not apply to them, talking about the level of satisfaction and dissatisfaction. It was very interesting. There were two columns there, two diagrams. Yeah, this one. We see that utility service subsidies and transportation gained a lot of points. It looks like those are the benefits that the veterans take advantage of. And have you been analyzing among those dissatisfied? There is a huge number of those dissatisfied with utility service subsidies and free transportation, 18%. So there is something about those services that dissatisfies the people. Well, when it comes to any service, there are always people who are completely satisfied, even if it's 1%, and there are those completely dissatisfied. So statistically talking, or talking about some balance between those numbers, well, those are the popular types of benefits. It's interesting because this free transportation, we can track the special status of this kind of benefit through all of our presentation. I think that's kind of benefit that you can easily get. You just enter the bus, you don't have to stand in line, it can be easily used. And I think that this is what the veterans use the most, because it's easy to use this benefit. But when it comes to some profound interviews and focus groups, the free transportation is being discussed a lot from that point of view, that there is this stigmatization, specifically the ladies emphasize it. We're going to talk about it in a further surveys when we finalize them. But really, it's probably worth a separate survey. I mean, this free transportation, some are seeing it as the most demanded benefit, and some see some situations with where they feel some bias. Some people let the veterans for free as they see their veterans ID. Well, I apologize. I would like to add that the human factor plays its role everywhere, and free transportation, I have my personal experience. I switched to the subway to get here the soonest possible, and the subway was filled, and with this free transportation, you know, bus or trolleybus or tram, there is a human factor that no one can cancel out. I mean, someone woke up in a good mood, someone has woken up in a different mood, and when our veterans are facing some problems in the public transportation system, we have to understand that, It's a human factor. So again, there is some level of dissatisfaction, but we see that there is a demand for free transportation, and it's the biggest among all social services because everybody is using it. Well, thank you very much for the survey. Thank you very much for the results. I would like to discuss the dynamics, the trends that you're observing. What are the trends that are the most progressive, and what are the most negative trends that we all should pay attention to? Well, as we've mentioned, the survey that we're conducting among the veterans, we have quite a big drawdown, but it's not representative. There is a number of factors that influence our ability to conduct such representative surveys, but again, relying upon the national surveys, which are representative of the population of Ukraine, all those nuances that we're discussing, they emerge there as well about respect, about trust to the veterans. In some areas, all those indicators are decreasing comparing to when we started measuring after the beginning of the full-scale invasion, for example. So again, there is some decline in trend about the respect, and when we compare the general national surveys where the population evaluates some negative phenomena that can emerge in veterans' lives, the veterans themselves evaluate the probability of such phenomena higher than generally the population of Ukraine. They have their concerns about it, but generally this is how we can compare them. Talking about the areas, other areas where we understand the situation is better or the other way around. Well, this survey is providing the data that stimulate us to research every single area in particular. On a more profound level, we may try to analyze why this or that indicator is higher or lower, but to analyze it properly, we have to go in depth into every area. But we're seeing even here that the financial support, the material support is the type of support that is accompanied by some types of problems. It's mostly in demand, but at the same time, less people use it. Less veterans use it. Our data doesn't give us an opportunity to say why, but there is a lot of space for research to find out why and to take some steps to satisfy that need. As you were putting together the survey, did you have an impression that some services are enjoying some success among the veterans? I mean, those services that are the most relevant for the broad audience. When we talk about free transportation, well, we understand that it's about almost everybody. When we talk about subsidies, it's the same thing here. So probably here we can observe some success because training and education is less understandable. We understand that probably not so much people need this service. Well, I wouldn't depreciate the education so much, but I think that the issue is that many veterans now, they can still be on active duty, or they can be going through some basic reintegration stages. On those basic stages, this need is not so very well expressed. On those stages, medical support is the most pressing need. Legal need, for example, when they need to process all of their benefits, and then after that, the veterans start getting resources to fulfill them in professional sphere, in business, or to get an education. We may say that less than a half are saying that they need to have this need satisfied, but less than a half is still a lot of people. And for them, this need may be so significant that it influences their whole life. So we have to take it into account too. We have to understand that every single benefit is actually at specific stage as they get reintegrated back into civil lives. So you've mentioned that this survey is the 6th survey. Every survey is a good foundation for advocacy activities. So what are your further plans? What are the key indicators for you, the indicators that you need to start working on right now, shortly? Well, Ukrainian Veterans Foundation, you know, the sociological surveys is one of the key areas of our work. That's why we continue conducting these surveys. Anastasiia is permanently dealing with them, and we're not going to stop. The results of our surveys, they influence state policies in the area of veterans, the work of international organizations who provide grant support, including the organizations who are involved in work with the veterans. That's why we will continue doing what we're doing, talking about the topics that we're going to cover. Now we're presenting part of our sociological survey, and until the end of this year, we plan to demonstrate even more results, and based on those results, out of all of the surveys, based on all of the surveys, we're going to plan our work for the following year. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. In case you have any questions, you may ask them right now, and I would like to ask you for this tremendous work, for this survey, and I would like to thank our security and defense forces, thanks to whom we may gather and discuss the surveys, and not only discuss, but to conduct surveys as well. Thank you very much. Let's continue working for our victory, and glory to Ukraine.